Someone looked right through you today, not at you, through you, like you weren't there, and something happened inside you that you didn't choose. Something physical, something that hurt. And the reason it hurt that much, nobody ever told you. Here's something nobody told you. Being ignored doesn't feel like rejection. It registers as pain, not metaphorical pain, not emotional pain, physical pain, the same kind your brain processes when you burn your hand or break a bone. In 2003, neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA published a landmark study in Science. She placed participants inside an fMRI scanner and had them play a simple ball-tossing game with two other players. At a certain point, the other players stopped, including them, just stopped passing the ball. The scan showed immediate activation of the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that lights up during physical pain. Being left out didn't trigger the emotional brain first. It triggered the pain brain first, and it did it in seconds. Before the person had time to think about what was happening, before they could decide whether to care or not, your brain decided for you. And it decided this was an emergency. Think about what that means. You didn't choose to feel hurt. You didn't decide to take it personally. Your brain processed the exclusion as a wound before your conscious mind had formed a single thought about it. By the time you felt it, the damage was already registered. Eisenberger's team went further. They asked participants to suppress the feeling, to remind themselves it was just a game, just a computer. It didn't matter. The scans didn't change. The pain region stayed active regardless. The brain didn't care what the person told themselves. It had already decided. But here's where it gets strange. Of all the things that can happen to you being ignored, is one of the most psychologically destabilizing. Not insults, not criticism, not open rejection, silence, absence, the refusal to acknowledge that you exist. Psychologist Kipling Williams at Purdue University has spent over 2 decades studying ostracism. His foundational work, published in Psychological Bulletin in 2007, showed that even 30 seconds of being ignored by a complete stranger produces measurable drops in 4 fundamental human needs simultaneously: belonging, self-esteem, meaningful existence, control. 4 needs, 30 seconds. A stranger. Your brain doesn't care who is ignoring you. It doesn't weigh the relationship, the context, or the reason. It detects the signal you are being excluded, and it launches the full response. The same response it would launch if you were being expelled from the tribe. Because 300,000 years ago, that's exactly what this was. And here is what makes it stranger still. Williams found that this response is almost impossible to suppress consciously. Even when people knew the exclusion was random, programmed by a computer with no human behind it, the pain response fired anyway. Your brain doesn't care about intent. It only cares about the signal. There's something even deeper happening here. Your brain has a dedicated threat detection system. It runs constantly. It scans every interaction for signals of social standing. Are you included? Are you valued? Does your presence register? This system evolved because social standing wasn't abstract. It determined everything: access to food, access to shelter, access to protection. A human alone on the savannah was a dead human. So your brain developed what researchers call a sociometer, a continuous internal gauge of your social acceptance level. Psychologist Mark Leary at Duke University first described it in 1995 in Psychological Review, a mechanism running below conscious awareness, tracking your inclusion level in real time. The sociometer runs below conscious awareness. You don't feel it working, you just feel the output. When someone ignores you, the sociometer doesn't register a minor social inconvenience, it registers a threat to survival. It drops immediately, and your body responds accordingly. Cortisol rises, heart rate shifts, attention narrows, the same cascade that prepares you to fight or flee, triggered by the absence of a glance. You didn't overreact. Your brain ran the only program it has for this signal, the same one it's been running for 300,000 years. But here's the part that changes everything. Being ignored doesn't just cause pain, it causes something far more disturbing. It makes you question your own existence. In 2012, psychologist Chen-Bo at the University of Toronto published research showing that people who experienced ostracism reported feeling physically cold. not metaphorically. Their actual temperature perception changed. Exclusion triggered a temperature drop response, the same physical sensation associated with social isolation in mammals for millions of years. But the deeper finding was what happened cognitively. People who were ignored began to behave in ways designed to prove they existed. They made more noise. They took up more physical space. They performed louder and more visibly. Williams called this the need to be invisible made visible. When your existence is denied, your brain launches a campaign to reassert it. This is why being ignored feels worse than being insulted. An insult acknowledges you. It confirms you are present enough to be worth targeting. Silence says something different. Silence says you don't register at all, and your brain, built to survive in groups, built to need acknowledgement the way it needs oxygen, cannot process that signal without alarm. So it does what it always does when survival is threatened. It fights back in three very specific ways. First, it replays the moment obsessively. Every detail, every glance that didn't come, every word that wasn't said. This isn't rumination for its own sake. Your brain is searching the data for what it missed, what signal it sent wrong, what it can fix to restore connection. Second, it becomes hypervigilant. Research by psychologist Lisa Zadro at the University of Sydney shows that recently ignored individuals become significantly more attuned to social cues in their environment. They read faces faster, they notice micro-expressions they would normally miss, the brain cranks up its social detection system in response to the threat. You become, in a very real sense, more socially aware after being ignored than you were before. Not because you chose to, because your brain shifted into high alert. Third, and this is the part most people never reach, it starts to accept almost any form of attention as relief. Williams documented this in multiple studies. People who had been ostracized were significantly more likely to comply with requests from others immediately afterward, even requests they would normally refuse. Any connection, any acknowledgement, any proof that they existed in someone else's perception. The brain doesn't just want to be reconnected, it will take almost anything that resembles it. This is why being ignored can make you behave in ways that surprise you. Reaching out too much, agreeing too fast, saying yes when you meant no, not weakness. Survival programming running at full speed. You weren't being oversensitive today, you weren't being weak. Your brain registered a threat signal it was built to take seriously. One that your ancestors paid for in survival every time someone was cast out, cut off, made invisible. The pain of being ignored is not a character flaw, it's a biological alarm system that has kept humans connected for 300,000 years. But here's what changes when you understand it. The alarm was designed for a world where being ignored meant being left behind, where invisibility was the first step toward death. You're not in that world, but your brain doesn't know that yet. And the next time someone looks right through you and your body responds before your mind catches up, you'll know what's actually happening. Not rejection, not failure, not proof of anything, an alarm going off in the wrong century, and that gap between what the alarm was built for and what triggered it today, that's not weakness. That's the oldest misunderstanding inside you. You inherited a brain that was never meant to live in silence. It was built for fire, for voices, for the weight of someone beside you. And every time that weight disappears, even for a moment, it sounds the alarm. Not because you're broken, because you were built to belong. And you've been living with it your entire life without ever knowing why. Oddly explained.